Welcome back to Mr. Postframe. I'm Emily and this is Paul, and we are doing a series called Is Self-Building Worth It?, which is a look back on our personal home build, our Barndominium here in Madison County, Iowa. We have some amazing resources if you are interested in Barndominium building. Paul, tell us about that.
Yeah, so we have Back 40 Buildings, which is our design company. If you're looking to design your Barndominium, we can help you out with that. Check that out. The links are in the description. We do stick frame, steel frame, and of course, post frame. Also, we have a patron group that we created just for you that want to self-build, you want to self-GC, maybe you are a stick frame builder that wants to get into post frame. We do lives, I answer questions. We have an app where you get to interact in different categories, and it's a great community of other self-builders. We've found that a lot of people are finding other builders in their areas that they can share, hey, the do's and don'ts for your area. It's great. You should check that out. We also have a lot of awesome resources. We have the Barndominium Planning Guide, which covers everything you need to know about building your Barndominium. We have budget sheet, an interactive budget sheet that Emily created, which is amazing. Check those out. Let's go ahead and jump in to framing. One thing I like to do, so you can see I got all these posts and headers up. I got this wall on the back side of the kitchen up. And then this all over here is like the master suite, basically. And what I like to do is I like to lay out my bottom plates everywhere there'll be a wall. And this is, I designed this, so I do this because I can kind of get a feel for how everything lays and if there's going to be any issues. We're going to come back to the stair framing and the joists, and we're going to do the wall framing.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the house and the garage, there's, I think, 8 or 9 videos about the interior framing of this house. And so there's tons of good information in them. But we're just kind of recapping some of the high points of all these. But yeah, you're framing up interior walls on the main floor.
Yeah, and so we kind of covered like the headers and posts in the last video. But the walls, we're just stick framing the walls. So if you're going to be building on a slab, code says you need to use a treated bottom plate. Honestly, my opinion is that you wouldn't need it inside a house, because if my thought process is if you need a treated bottom plate, why wouldn't your cabinets need to be treated? Why wouldn't anything that sits on the concrete need to be treated? If you have moisture in your house, you got major problems.
Sure, yes.
But code says treated bottom plates. We use a green treated bottom plate on all our walls, even though it's not necessary in my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. Most of you should know how to build a basic wall if you're going to be doing this. I mean,
if that's a challenge, you probably should rethink self-building.
Yeah, I mean, we do everything 16 on center. Any wall that's going to carry I-Joists or your ceiling system needs to have structural headers in the door openings. Your other walls that are running parallel with your floor system do not need headers. But I mean, all this is pretty basic stuff. This is a really exciting part of your build. And this is one of the great advantages of post frames. You can get your whole structure done, and then you're dried in, and then you get to build all this out on the inside, which is really fun to see it come together. It's fun for your family because they can come and kind of see their rooms. You kind of see how things are going to lay out. And, I had this plan in my head on graph paper, and I'm trying to think, we didn't change too much. Now upstairs, we did change a little. I think I did move some stuff around a little bit, but that's because
Yeah, I mean, on the main floor, I think the main thing that we changed was the reconfiguration of like our closet space. After you framed up all the walls.
Oh yeah, because I'm like, man, this is huge. We don't have enough stuff to put in here.
Right. So like that's why I tell people, that's why probably our storm shelter isn't in that area, because it wasn't intended to be a closed off area, but that would have been a perfect spot to like make an above ground shelter.
And I still could.
Sure.
I could beef that up with some metal plates or screwed, 3/4 inch plywood, and we could use that as a place to seek shelter for sure.
Right. Yeah. It's like in the middle of the house.
Crazy. Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think that we really changed. I mean, it's obviously a pretty open concept.
Yeah.
out here, but then like the whole back 48 feet of the house is the master suite. So they're
Yeah, if you're kind of laying your home out on your own, you need to think about like the size of your floor joists and how you're going to make spans. If you use our design services, our designers think about that. Like I've worked with them to think, hey, what size I-joists are we using? How are we going to span this? Where do we need structural headers? Where do we need structural footings? But if you're not, you really need to think about that stuff. Because it is very important.
right. Yeah. Or do you go to floor trusses?
Yeah. I mean, there's, it just depends on kind of what your plan is. If you're going to use a conventional HVAC system, how are you planning on, moving that air around your house? You got to have ductwork. So where does your ductwork go?
Yeah, so that's really where this starts to come into play big time. And then one of the things that gets brought up a lot is that, how do you fasten all of these walls to the concrete? And we have in-floor heat tubing and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's simple. We use concrete screws to secure our walls to the floor. And you don't have to go really deep into the concrete because all you need to do is keep it from moving side to side. We run 5-inch slabs. Our radiant heat tubing is at the bottom of the slab. So we can go in 3 inches into the concrete without being worried about hitting our tubes. So that's going to come down to how your hydronic is laid out. It's kind of like, you got to know where things are at so you know how deep you can go. So, I mean, if you use a 4.5-inch screw, you're going through 1.5-inch bottom plate, and then you can go 3 inches in. You don't even need to go that deep, really. 2.5,
Sure.
2.5 is fine.
Yeah. But that's something to keep in mind if you're planning on like pulling your tubing up into the concrete, that's creating an unpredictable situation.
It is, because you're never going to be able to keep it perfectly, where you want it.
Right. So I think that's one of the reasons why for residential, especially, you staple it to that insulation board.
And you're not going to be losing any efficiency by it being at the bottom of your slab. You have vapor barrier, you have insulation that's forcing that heat up, and you're going to have concrete over your tubing. It's not going to affect any efficiency by not having it in the middle of the slab.
Yeah. And then this is also the stage of the game when you figure out how good your plumber was with all the under slab plumbing.
That is true. Talking about that, when you're laying out your plumbing, you need to pull string lines. That's why I like to build all my structure and then do all my plumbing. Is you pull string lines to your finished wall, and so you can locate your plumbing, and you should be able to nail it.
Yes.
Measure 4 times, get your plumbing right, because you only get one shot. Now, we've had a couple builds where we've had plumbers mess stuff up, and we've been really fortunate that we've been able to make a little design changes after the fact, because you got hydronic heat. Like, you can't just dig up your concrete. So it's very important that you measure 3 or 4 times. And even if you have a plumber come in, after he's done, before you have your concrete, pull your own dimensions. Check it.
Yeah, I mean, we had somebody do that.
Yeah, we had. And if you don't think it's right, call them and say, hey, I've measured this out, and I really don't believe that this is right, and make them come back out and check it now, because you only have one shot at it, so you might as well make sure it's right.
Geez, that does not look safe, what you're doing right here.
I was really on the struggle bus with that one. I remember that one specifically, like how I kept trying to. Did you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, that header in the dining room.
This one I struggled with too. I mean, those are heavy.
Yeah, you just make things look. Oh, you're moving your wall.
Oh, I was yelling. I was celebrating my victory. Yeah.
I mean, another little, there's so many little tips and things like that. And especially when you're bringing a bunch of different contractors through and things like that. Like, we had a case where our guys went to do the interior framing, and they were like, all the toilet placements were off on everything, is what they said. Well, the client, they hadn't let us, because we weren't in charge of their plumbing. We didn't have all the, information. They were doing wall mounted toilets.
Yeah.
And
so yeah, the drain needed to come up in the wall, and we're like, oh man, all these are off. But
Yeah, yeah. So it's just little things like that that all add up into understanding like the full scope of what you're
yeah,
trying to make happen.
Something to touch on with the two-story stud lengths and headers over your door.
oh yeah, that's 100% a good point. So whenever we're doing a 2-story, I will lay out the floor on the wall, or the walls on the floor, cut all my bottom plates, mark all my stud locations, and then I go along and I mark each one of those studs with my laser to make sure that my floor is going to be perfectly flat. Because with concrete, you're going to have some variance. It's not going to be perfectly flat all the way across. Now, you're not going to be able to notice that walking across it, but you might have a 1/4, 3/8 variance throughout your building. And if you just go ahead and use all the same length studs, your floor could have some wave to it. So you need to find the highest spot, get yourself a baseline, mark all your stud locations with, hey, this stud needs to be an extra 1/8 inch longer, so that when you put your top plates on, it is perfectly level. That way, when you put your floor system on, it's perfectly level. Then when you get on your second story, you can cut them all the same length. Or if you're using if you're a single story, it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly level up there, because you're not setting anything on top of it.
Right, right.
You will be very happy that you did that.
Yeah. Some of my favorite pictures of our build are at this stage. So like if you're, if you're doing a 2-story before you start doing the second floor, like we have some really cool shots in the corner, like the far corner, and you're like showing everything. Those are some of my favorites. So I really like that. Because it's fun. There's a lot of hope at that phase.
Yeah. And this is a phase where you can really get your family involved too, lifting walls. And I mean, obviously you have to be safe. We get all these safety police on here, but this is a chance for your family to get involved. Like, let your kids help frame up the walls to their bedrooms and take ownership in it, and it just makes it enjoyable. I mean, I thought it was.
Yeah.
What else should we talk about?
The second,
I think we moved to the second.
Yeah.
level, hit everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so second level has 2 videos. Actually, there's 2.
Which is fine. You can just show some clips. I mean, we have a bunch of other framing videos where we cover, I probably do a better job covering like how I'm laying out my bottom plates and marking my stud lengths that you can check out. It's probably a good idea to put a temporary railing. I know you were stressed out about that the whole time.
I mean, the kids were just so little.
No, I know.
Yeah. I mean, it's just.
I mean, our kids were jumping off the loft.
That's what we had a kid.
So-
Yeah. So our child did. They piled up all the blankets in the.
Or jumping off onto the. But get yourself a temporary railing up until you get your walls. Really good idea. You don't want to have an accident.
Yeah. Well, and just like if you're not totally used to
Right.
like stuff, like you're still kind of learning the space, so you don't necessarily want to find yourself like wandering off the edge on accident.
One thing we should definitely talk about is if you're going to use fiberglass showers and tubs, I highly recommend using a one-piece. That being the case, those need to be put in while you're framing, because
Yes.
there are times where you won't be able to get a one-piece in once the walls are up. So, and the reason I like a one-piece is because you have no seams where the sides meet the tub. You'll really eliminate a lot of like scum buildup where water gets
yeah.
in there, and they're so much more stable. Which we have videos on how we stabilize those anyway, like after the fact. But really consider one-piece tub showers if you're going to go that route, because you'll be much happier. Like cleaning them, just
Right.
overall maintenance is way easier.
Right. Yeah. And they're usually like now that supply chains are kind of moving a lot more smoothly, they're not hard to find.
No.
Like you can usually same day pick up one.
And there's things you can do to really make these feel a lot better. Like we'll spray foam underneath the bottom of them. We'll spray foam the sides, so like they're rock solid.
Sure.
And then you can tile above them and they look real nice.
Yep. That's one of those elevation points that we're
Yeah.
going to try to add this year.
Man, that was fun. Seeing this all come together. One of these days we'll finish this puppy off.
I mean, but kind of the fun thing with the second floor is that you really can design it.
Yeah, I made sure I ran extra plumbing in between posts because I wasn't sure, like when I got up there and started framing, like, do I want to, maybe I'll decide to move a bathroom or
Sure.
kind of change the
Yeah.
game. So I did make sure I had options. Yeah, I made a cardboard fort for the kids. Gosh, I remember that. Boy, they love that.
Oh, they're so cute. They're so tiny.
Were they here a lot more once you got to this stage?
Yeah. I mean, I tried to bring them out whenever I could. I mean, they were here when I laid all the flooring. I mean, I would make them sit in the corner because I didn't have any railings. And then, like, as I built out, they could come out further.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the wall that the girls helped me pick up.
Yeah. Like 40 seconds into the second.
I mean, some people loved it. Some people said I should be turned into human services for endangering the lives of my children. Look at Moo.
I mean, she had a diaper. Oh. They are just, oh, how cute is that?
Look at her. Now watch her kick it. I kick the ball, and then she'll try to kick it with her bare feet.
Oh, so cute. The best. Oh, Ren was there too.
Yeah, Rem was riding his bike. Oh no, he's got the police car.
We sold that to a TikToker, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. It's kind of cool. But anyway, I think that's about all we have for interior framing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great way. Like this is a thing in our experience with tips is that this is a part of a job that a post frame crew, some fairly often, even if they don't take a project through to the finish, they might be willing to come back and do interior framing for you. Or a lot of folks, they tackled this part of the project on their own because you can still save quite a bit of money.
Yeah, this is a very DIY friendly part of your build.
Yeah, it would be a lot more stressful if you're stick framing because obviously then they're doing the entire.
Yeah, you have to build all the exterior walls and interior walls, then put your floor system on. So
Yeah.
that is the benefit of post frame is you can complete
Right.
your exterior and then do the interior. So I think that's going to be a wrap on this video. If you guys have any questions, let us know. We'll have some other videos you can look at. But as always, we appreciate you watching. Hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, and we will catch you on the next video.